I am Pat Wilson. I was married on Bill Wilson, who was born in this house in 1941.
What do you remember of the house, living in the house?
Well, it was a very happy house. There was never any ups or downs. I think all their life they had lived a very smooth, happy life here. Bill's mum was in it from the day they were married and had 3 children in here. 2 sisters of Bill. And his 2 sisters were born in here. Molly was born in this house in 1934, April 1934. Their sister Lillian was born 1938. And Bill, he was born in May 1941. And that was the family.
Tell me about Bill.
Well, Bill, he loved living here. They all loved living here. But little things that would tell us was, well, his dad was the gardener and the chauffeur. But when Bill was quite small, he was out, and it was the daffodils were growing in the drive. And Lady Russell came up, and she was picking them. And he said, "You've not to do that. They're my daddy's flowers." But she was so pleased. She came in and told them all about him, telling her to stop picking the daffodils. But
tell me about his job, his dad's job being the chauffeur. Tell me.
He was the chauffeur gardener, and in the chauffeur he was Lady Russell's chauffeur, and also the girls. And he transported them to St Andrews to the school every day and back again. That was Aunt Lady Russell. Another, when you fill in his spaces, he would do the gardens. But there was a head gardener. When I was here, the head gardener was Mr Jenkins. In 1937 I was born.
So
November 1937, because I'll be 88 in November. His dad was, well, so they say, the first tractor driver in Fife.
So this is your husband's dad. He was chauffeur as well.
He was a chauffeur.
So he was
gardener.
He was chauffeur and gardener. Tell me more about this tractor business.
Well, Cadzo lived in the west, and he must have bought a farm here. And he brought with him his family, but he also brought Bill's dad. And Bill's dad worked on Cadzo's farm across the road. But then this job here must have come up, the gardener chauffeur, so he moved across the road and worked for the Russell family. And then that was why they would build the house for him getting married. This house was called Silverburn Lodge, and it was built for Bill's dad and his mum when they got married in 1933. June 1933 they were married and moved in here and lived happily ever after. So they did. It was a lovely life, a simple life, but a happy life.
So what would a sort of typical day be for Bill's dad?
Well, he would need to be up quite sharp to take the girls to the school in St Andrews, because the school would be 9 o'clock likely, I don't know. And then when he would come back, I suppose, well, he was washing that car, but then he would do a bit of gardening, I suppose. So.
How did you come into the picture?
Well, I met him, it would be at the local dance, a Friday night. In these days, it was Friday night was dance night, up at Ceres. And I think I must have driven up there because I think I drove him home. And just from there, it mushroomed.
Tell me about it.
And then we got married about 2 years later. And I think we lived happily. We got on, we had a good enough life. Because they didn't have the telephone in this house at that time. So we used to cycle down to the phone box and phone me at home on the days that he wasn't coming up to see me. And I never had the telephone in this house. But then we got married.
Tell me the date. What sort of date were you married then? When were you married? What was the year that you got married in?
I was married in 1964. Oh, and it was on Valentine's Day. We said, without looking at the calendar, we said, we'll get married the last Saturday in February. When we looked at the calendar, then we found out it was Valentine's Day. And I says, well, we'll change it. No, we'll just keep it. And then it'll only be every 4 years. We have an anniversary. So that was 1964. And I lived here then till 1966. And we moved up to Markinch. But
so did you? What did you do for your work, Margaret?
For my work,
What was your work?
I worked with the gas board in Cooper.
And when you were here, did you have any children?
I had one boy here, but he was only 6 weeks when we moved.
Right. Yeah.
So he doesn't remember being here, but...
So your other children were born there?
I've got 2 boys.
Yeah.
One's in Australia and one's here.
Lovely.
But that's 20 odd years he's been in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But then Bill's sisters are in Australia and nieces and nephews, they're all there.
How much do you visit the park? Do you come here for a walk or?
Quite often. Silverburn always held a huge part in Bill's life. It did. And still does in mine, because the ones in Australia, it's always Silverburn that ask for.
So when they come over, do they?
Oh, they all come here to see it.
Yeah.
The ones from Australia, they always go to Silverburn.
And what do you think it is that they like about the place? What do they like about Silverburn?
I just think they thought it was home. I think that's what they thought. That was, I suppose their gran and granddad was as far back as they would remember, and that's here. This was a very popular house for visitors. Every Sunday, all the leaving cousins, aunties and uncles, just a nice length to walk out here, cup of tea, and walk back. So it went like a mill on Sundays.